Welcome to Plot Twist, your place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. Our movie begins in an orphanage where a man named Daniel comes to visit the children there. He greets the owner of the place, Sally, who clearly appears to be very kind and treats all the children well. They talk for a while, and Daniel notices that there are new children who have recently arrived. He asks Sally about them, and she explains that there are indeed two boys and a girl who came recently, but their stories are a bit different. The first boy is named Billy, and it's clear he's struggling to adapt and doesn't talk to anyone. As for Allie, we learn that her mother abandoned her when she was young, causing her significant emotional trauma that she hasn't been able to overcome. The last person is named Hoko, who always tries to dominate the other children to prove he's their leader. Sally speaks to him and tries to convince him to treat the other children better. At that moment, a little girl comes to Daniel and asks him to tell them a story before he leaves. The children gather around to listen, and Daniel notices that Billy and Allie, as usual, are sitting alone. To grab their attention, he begins telling a story about three characters named Billy, Allie, and Hoko, intending to convey a message to the new children through this tale. He starts by narrating about a kind king who loved helping his people in any way possible. One day, he decided to transform his crown into a magical medallion because he didn't like wearing the crown and wanted to live as one of the common people. The king discovers that the medallion has incredible powers that help him improve the kingdom. The medallion could grant him any wish. One day, an evil army attacks them, and the king uses the medallion to protect his people. However, his arrogant son, Hoko, steals the medallion from him, wanting to become king himself, but Hoko loses the magical stone inside the medallion, rendering it powerless. As the news spreads, the evil army attacks again and easily defeats them this time. The kind king escapes with the medallion, fearing it might fall into the hands of the enemy king, who leads the evil army and wants to exploit the medallion for his sinister plans. The king hides the medallion in a remote location, but the enemy king finds him and demands to know its location. When the kind king refuses to reveal it, the enemy king kills him and continues searching for the medallion. Years later, the story of the medallion is still well known, and many people are searching for it. A young boy named Billy helps his archaeologist father search for the medallion. However, his father dismisses Billy's help, considering him just a child. Upset, Billy meets his close friend Allie, who encourages him and promises to help him find the medallion. The next day, they venture into an unknown forest together, and they have with them a device that helps them in the mission date, so they keep searching everywhere until he starts to feel tough, and he doubts that it is impossible for them to reach the chain. But at that moment, other people suddenly appear, and they are also there to search for the chain, and when they talk to each other, Phil discovers that they are followers of the evil King Kubra, so he hides from them and thinks he will find the chain before them. And fortunately, fate is on their side this time, and they are actually able to determine its location, so they chase Billy until he finds it and holds it in his hand. But unfortunately, these people appear around him and keep expelling them. So Billy runs quickly with Aaliyah, and the chase continues for a long time until they return after that to the city. So they go to Aaliyah to talk to her, and she tells him that now he can prove himself in front of his father. And here they are surprised that there is something strange happening in Billy's pocket after that. And then he finds the magic stone with him in the Nebula house, especially since the stone restores the chain, and he immediately decides to go to his father to tell him what happened. But the surprise is that as soon as he enters, he finds his father tied up, and these people are there to take the chain from him. So one of them approaches him and says to him, "Give me the chain or I finish off your father." Billy gets angry and says in a loud voice that he wishes that the matter had not reached this point from the beginning. And here we discover that the chain's power actually appeared and fulfilled his wish, because the two of them go back together to the past, and it becomes clear that the chain brought them to the time dot in order to fix a certain thing and prevent evil in the future. And at that moment, the people of the village begin to approach them, and they are wondering who they are until a person named Hoko speaks to them, and he is the legitimate heir and therefore the king of the place. So your house is with them, and the situation is going very normally until he notices that Bali is wearing the chain around his neck. And at that moment, their attitude changes to the point that the people of the village are talking to him as if he is their king. Of course, this makes Hoko very angry, and he tells them that he is the real king, but still, no one cares about him, and they continue to treat Billy in a very good way until the end of the day. And then Hoko comes to talk to him and wants to take the chain from him so that he can prove himself again in front of the people and become the king. But Billy refuses, and it is clear that he is happy about the matter. But the next day, the news reaches the enemy king, and immediately he and his army go to the village to get the chain by any means. So he attacks the people and treats them very brutally, and then he reaches Billy's place where he is with the rest of the children. So he kidnaps Billy from him and threatens that if he does not take the chain from him, then he will kill her immediately in front of his eyes. So Billy gets tense, and the situation becomes very difficult, but he gives him the chain at the end to save the life of the one who is after that. Billy takes the rest of the children, so they leave the place quickly so that they can protect them from the evil of the king. Cobra uses the chain, and they say that he wants these children to die, and then he leaves the place immediately. But the strange thing is that the chain did not work with him, and we see that the children are still living until now, all together. Billy and his friends, determined to reclaim the medallion, seek the help of a wise man named Verica, who teaches them valuable skills and helps them discover their unique talents. Meanwhile, Cobra grows increasingly frustrated with the medallion's refusal to work for him and lashes out at his advisor when he learns that the medallion requires a kind-hearted user. As for Billy, Ben sees him gathered with Veliki and the rest of the children, and they learn a lot of things from him, so they stops once on the beach, and he is embarrassed to continue their journey so that they reach the evil king's palace and confront him there. But unfortunately, at that moment, one of his men appears and throws at Billy a poison arrow to finishes him off, but Veliki defends him and immediately stands in the way of the arrow, and Baker sacrifices his life for Billy, so he tells him to complete the mission, you and the rest of the children, and not to give up. So he makes Billy very upset, and they all keep crying until they accept the reality and want to finish off Cobra at any cost. So they complete their journey, and indeed they reach his palace. And on the other hand, he is gathered with his men and asks them to celebrate today and do what they want, because tomorrow he will start implementing their evil plans and attack all the villages around them. Anyway, time passes, and we find that Cobra and his men have completely lost consciousness because of the amount of alcohol they drank while celebrating. As for Billy and his friends, they go to the place and see everything that is happening from above, and they realize that Cobra is sleeping with a chain around his neck, so they have Billy tie him up, and he starts to go down the place quietly to take a chain from him and escape quickly. But unfortunately, the matter does not end there, because Cobra senses him, so he makes his men quickly get up to arrest him until he is finally arrested, and he and the rest of his friends fall into their hands. So he buys time and keeps waiting for the right opportunity to get out of here until he actually finds a way and escapes from the cell. He immediately goes looking for his friends, and when he finds them, he talks to Allie and tells her that he will never abandon them. He tells her that he has a plan in mind that they must do, and he knows exactly what she must do and asks her to deliver his message to the rest of their friends, so he buys time. Fortunately, Allie's plan is successful, and she is able to free her friends and all the prisoners in the place. At that moment, they stand together to face a large army. They actually all take advantage of the right time, and a big battle occurs between them, but because of the chaos in the place, the chain falls to the ground, and the magic stone comes out of it. Cobra quickly comes to Billy and brings the chain, but unfortunately, the stone falls into Billy's hand. Cobra takes a wicked step, and we see that he has arrested Allie again. Of course, he threatens Volley that he will finish her off, and then Billy opens a gate to hell and says, "Give me the stone now, or I will throw Allie into it." Billy takes out the stone from his hand and starts luring him towards the gate. Of course, the king considers him just a little child until Billy shocks him, boldly attacks him, and is able to make him fall into the gate to get rid of him forever. At this moment, we notice that even his men turn against him. We see one of them talking to Billy and thanking him very much because he was able to get rid of him. She returns to normal and lives safely as before. Billy talks to Hako and thanks him for his help in the mission. After that, he gives him a chain, and they know that he has become worthy of it. Now, it is very clear that he has really changed and is able to be the king of his people. At that moment, Billy asks him to use the chain and return him and Allie to their time because their mission is over. And indeed, Hako does that. Then they return them both to the present time. It is revealed that the two people he was chasing are still there, but now they have changed and become very good people. Of course, Billy is very happy. He meets his father after that and tells him that he must come with him immediately. They go together. Billy arrives at the location of the chain, and at that moment, he was able to prove to him that he is not just a little child. We return again to Daniel after he finished his story for the children, and we find that they were all very affected by it, especially, of course, the three new children to whom he intended to send a message through this story. Time passes, and we see that they have really changed, and they are all living together with joy and happiness, and it ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos.